Once you have your template cut out, what you are going to do is you need a pair of scissors and you need your fabric. Put your template on top of your fabric, making sure it's nice and straight, and then carefully pin each corner to the fabric. Push the pin down towards the table and then carefully pull it back up through the paper. Make sure the pins don't go outside the edges of your paper template. This will make it difficult to cut. So pushing down and then pulling up. Once you have your fabric pinned, take your scissors and carefully cut along the edge of the template. Leave your fabric sitting flat against the table. It will make it easier to cut out. Turn your fabric carefully and cut all the way around. Try to have the edges as neat as possible. This will make it easier when you start your stitching. I'm going to do 2 layers of fabric, so you'll do the same. I've got a thicker fabric and a thinner fabric. You can choose whatever fabric you like. Make it 2 different colours so that you can see the difference. So I've cut out one template with my rectangle, then I'm going to use a white one to do the second one. Once you have both of your rectangles cut out, remove the pins from each and then remove the template. Place one piece face down on the table and then put the second one on top. So I've got my pattern fabric face down on the table and then I've got my white one on top. Keep those to the side. The next thing you're going to do is cut out the beak and the crest. Once you've collected your scraps of felt, you also need your template. You're going to cut the beak and the crest from the template. So I'm just going to cut on those 2 lines to make the triangle beak, and then cut around the heart shape to make the crest. Carefully cut so you've got nice even edges. Collect your 2 scrap pieces in front of you and then you're going to pin your crest and your beak onto those 2. I'm going to use orange for the beak. You could just as easily be making a dinosaur or a dragon. You can make some choices at this stage if you want to. And then I'm going to pin on the crest. Carefully cut around each of the felt pieces. Felt is great for these small pieces because felt doesn't fray, so it makes it easier to stitch with. I'm just moving the pin out of the way so that I can cut and get a nice clean shape. I've chosen red for the crest. Move the pin again and cut off the end. Remove the pins and I'll just put the base here so that you can see clearly. Once I've removed the pins, I've got the beak and I've got the crest. I'm going to begin the next step by collecting a needle and thread. So I'm going to roll out my thread. Usually I like to make it about the length of my arm. Cut the thread off and then thread your needle. Hold your thread close to the end like we've practiced and put the thread through the needle, the eye of the needle. Once you've got it through the needle, pull so that both of your ends together, and you can see both of my ends together here. Once you've got both of the ends together, you're going to make a knot. It can be any knot. I usually wind it around my finger, twist, and then pull, but it can be any knot that works for you. Make it quite a large knot, you can see there, so that it doesn't pull through the fabric. So there's my needle and my thread. The next thing I'm going to do is turn my fabric over, my rectangles. I've got them both here together. I want the fabric that's going to be on the outside on the top. So you can see here in my chicken that I've made earlier that I'm going to go with the blue on the outside. So now it's going to be on the inside. So it's on the top. You've cut out your crest and your beak. You're going to need your paper template to work out where they're going to go. So I'm going to look at my paper template. I'm going to place the beak in that same, the crest in that same position, and then the beak underneath. They're almost touching. The crest should be on the short side and the beak should be on the long side of the rectangle. You can see here on the paper there's a fold indicated. We're going to use that in the next step. So just put the paper template to the side, take your needle and thread, and I've got red here. Let's see if it's going to show. And I'm just going to do a quick tacking stitch or running stitch to keep the beak in place and the crest in place. Just up and down through the fabric, up and down. Just a couple of stitches, cut that one off. Make another knot. Once you've got your second knot, I'm just going to turn this to make it easier. Make sure my beak stays in place. Down and up, down and up. And that's all I need, just a couple of stitches to hold the beak in place and the crest in place. Cut your thread. Once you've got your crest and beak stitched onto your work, you're going to need your template again. You can see on the template there's the indicating line that shows that you need to fold your work in half. So I'm going to take the bottom part of my work, my rectangle, and fold it over the top half. Once I've got it folded, I'm going to use a ruler, and I've just got a pencil here, you can use chalk, to mark a stitching line. So I'm going to make the line about 1 centimetre from the edge, no more than 1 centimetre, it could be just under 1 centimetre from the edge and the side. This is the edge and the side where the beak and the crest are. So once I remove the ruler, you can see the top edge. If I peel back, underneath I can see the crest, and the side edge, if I peel back, I can see the beak. Once you've got your lines drawn, these will help for you to sew in a straight line. You're going to take your piece of fabric, put the needle down, and then bring the needle back up on the line. Pull it through, and we're going to use back stitch. So we're going to take our needle back to the start, put it down, come up a little way in front of your thread and pull it through. Don't try and cheat and make your stitches big, because the rice or the beans or whatever you're going to use to fill your work is just going to fall out. So pull it gently, and you can see there that each time I'm going back to fill in the gap, back to the end of the last stitch, forward, underneath. Make sure you pull both threads evenly, back to the end of the last stitch, forward, underneath. You can ask your teacher to show you this, or otherwise you can look at the video tutorials that I've also posted just regarding back stitch. I'm going to complete this and then I'll come back to you with the next step. When you've finished your stitching, make sure you make a knot at the end. So you're going to take a tiny little stitch, pull it through until you've got a loop, and then take your needle through the loop and pull. Once you've done that, you can cut the end of your thread. It might take you a couple of threads on your needle to get stitched all the way around. Okay, so here's my chicken, my juggling chicken. I've got a stitching line across the top and down the side. I was careful with my stitching to make sure they weren't too large. I don't want the rice to fall out. Once I've done that, I'm going to cut off the corners. Make sure you don't cut your stitching. Cut off the corner, cut off the corner. This will make your work easier to turn through. Cut off the corner. Now, here's my work. Don't worry about the bottom corner. You just want the top corners and the bottom left-hand corner cut off. Once you've got that done, you're ready to turn your work through. Put your finger right in the corner, and push it inside out like a sock, like you turn a sock inside out. Once you've got it turned through, pull it all the way through, and you can see on my chicken that I've got the beak now on the outside, the crest on the outside, and the outside colour is blue. Now you're ready to fill your chicken. You need a little bit of polyester filling and some rice or dried beans or lentils. Now that you're ready to fill your chicken, you can use rice or beans or dried lentils. I'm going to use rice, and you also need a little bit of polyester filling. So I'm going to stand my chicken up. You could get somebody to help you with this step, and open the base. So you can see that it's open there. I'm just going to put mine inside a cup, but you could ask your friend to hold it for you. Then I'm going to take the rice. There's a small measuring spoon. I'm just going to use 2 tablespoons. You could use a small measuring cup at school, or tablespoon would be fine as well. So just putting the rice in the bottom of your work. So 1, 2. The rice will make my juggling chicken heavy, so when I throw it, it will fall a little bit faster. So remove that from the cup, leave it open, and I'm going to take some filling to fill in on top of the rice. Once you've got it filled in, you can see there my filling inside, it's nice and snug. I'm going to take my back piece, and I can see I want the crest on the top of my chicken, so I'm going to pull it across. This seam here is in the middle. Fold those edges in about 1 centimetre. Fold them all in, fold it in, and take 2 pins and pin that closed. Once you've got it pinned closed, then you're going to need a needle and thread again. So I'm going to pin that. Pins there to hold it. Make sure you push through the fabric, then come back to the other side. And there you can see the shape of my chicken taking place. He's got his crest, his beak, and this is the area that I need to sew next. Get a needle and thread and come back. Now that you have a needle and thread, the next thing you're going to do is stitch up the gap. You're going to use what's called a slip stitch. Put your needle between the 2 edges and pull the thread through. You can tuck the knot inside your work. This is going to be a little bit difficult to see on this colour, so you might like to refer back to the video from the start. Okay, I've taken out the first pin and I'm going to squeeze that closed. I'm going to take a small stitch along the bottom edge of fabric. It's right in the fold, and pull that until it's tight. Then I'm going to do the same on the top fold. Put the needle in, just a small stitch. Make sure you keep them small. If they're too big, again, your rice will fall out, and pull. If you're doing this well, you should hardly see the stitches. In the fold on the bottom, just a small stitch, and pull. Pull it through, all the way through. A small stitch in the top, fold, and pull. So you're going to continue in that action, with that action, all the way until you get to the other end. So small stitch at the top, pull, small stitch in the bottom, fold, pull. Again, you might need to look back at the other video so that you can see clearly this colour is a little bit dark. The last thing you're going to do is add some Google eyes or joggle eyes to your work. So go to the hot glue gun, choose some eyes, use a little bit of glue, oops, and then press it against your fabric. So same thing on the other side, a little bit of glue, and then press it against the side of the bird. Make sure you don't get the glue on your fingers, it's going to be really hot. Okay, there is my juggling chicken. Finished and ready to juggle with.